For our meditation today on this first Saturday, to fulfill the obligations Our Lady asked of us at Fatima, let us now turn to the 15th chapter of the book of Esther. This is an important book in relation to Fatima because the star on Our Lady's tunic is the Star of Esther. And much in the book rotates around the 13th of the month. By the way, that's the day she died, the 13th of August. And she rose again on August 15th, the Assumption. There are many other points of contact with Fatima in the book. We cannot cover them all in this meditation, but they're worth meditating upon sometime. Thus, I recommend reading that book regularly. In the 15th chapter, Esther, a long-established type or Old Testament prefigurement of our heavenly queen. Thus, we're focusing on the 5th decade of the mystery, of the glorious mysteries today. She's a prefigurement of our heavenly queen. She comes into King Xerxes, comes into his presence. She is terrified, but God turns his heart. The setting is this. The people of God have been exiled and are now under a death sentence through the maneuvering of an antichrist figure, Ammon. The time for its fulfillment is drawing nigh. Something needs to be done if they are to be saved. Are we not under pressure? Is this not relevant to us today? Do we not fear at this moment as well? Suppression, death, as it were, to all that we hold dear? Are there not many, as it were, antichrist-like figures and things going on, putting us under a sort of death sentence? We need an Esther, and we have a better than Esther in Our Lady. So from the 15th chapter, and on the third day, she laid away the penitential garbs she wore and put on her glorious apparel. See, the death and the resurrection. And glittering in royal robes, after she had called upon God, the ruler and Savior of all, she took 2 maids with her, and upon one of them she leaned, as if for delicateness and overmuch tenderness she were not able to bear up her own body. And the other maid followed her lady, bearing up her train, flowing on the ground. The maid she leans on is the New Testament. The one following is the Old Testament. She has all she needs to enter the court of the king and be heard. She leans on the promises of the new while relying on the types and prophecies of old. These have made her what she is. They support her and give her strength. They beautify and clothe her with what is needed to face God. Do we appreciate what we have in the New Testament? Leaning upon it for strength and renewing our hope in difficult times. Do we realize that we have in the Blessed Mother, who has what it takes to approach God himself by means of this testament, ratified on Calvary, leaning on the promises heaven has given us? She wants us to join us there with her on Calvary and receive the promises. Again from the 15th chapter. So going in, she passed through all the doors in order and stood before the king, where he sat upon his royal throne, clothed with his royal robes and glittering with gold and precious stones. And he was terrible to behold. This is Christ the King, in other words. He's typifying. And when he had lifted up his countenance, and with burning eyes had shown the wrath of his heart, the queen sunk down, and her color turned pale, and she rested her weary head upon her handmaid. Esther passes through the doors in order. This is required to face God himself, who is terrible to behold. His eyes are burning from the injustices, the disorder, and the malice of men who make the devil their God and their king rather than Christ. In the third secret of Fatima, the part that was revealed to us, this angel's sword sends forth flames of fire to punish mankind. The queen is there to quench them. It is costly. She nearly dies from it all. At times it will seem like we are finished. At times like now, huh? When the decree has been sent all over the world to put an end to those traditional Catholics. All is over. But when we are ready to die, not trying to seek an escape hatch that's illegitimate, then we're ready to live for God alone. Again, from the 15th chapter of Esther. And God changed the king's spirit into mildness, and all in haste and in fear he leaped from his throne, holding her up in his arms till she came to herself, caressed her with these words, "What is the matter, Esther? I am thy brother, fear not. Thou shalt not die. For this law is not made for thee, but for all others. Come near then and touch the scepter." And as she held her peace, he took the golden scepter and laid it upon her neck and kissed her and said, "Why dost thou not speak to me?" The king leaped down from his heavenly throne and comes to Esther. The promises are not enough. The king himself must come. And leaping down from his starry throne, he has become one of us through Esther. She is unique. The law does not apply to her. She is the Immaculate Conception. She touches the scepter of power, the cross. She becomes the neck of the church. All graces now pass through her, have always have, the mediatrix of all grace. Let us turn to this mediatrix for our graces. And finally, from the 15th chapter of Esther again. She answered, "I saw thee, my Lord, as an angel of God, and my heart was troubled for fear of thy majesty. For thou, my Lord, art very admirable, and thy face is full of graces." And while she was speaking, she fell down again and was almost in a swoon. But the king was troubled, and all his servants comforted her. She now has the king's ear. He is there for her and ready to remove anything that troubles her. From her bold self-sacrifice, the death sentence is reversed. The decree to destroy them is over. The exiled people will live, while all those who sought to kill and hurt them and suppress them are punished in their place. Our Lady of Fatima said, "Only she can help us." In the third secret, it is she who puts out the flames of God's wrath for us. It is true we seemingly are under a death sentence, but let us turn to her and beseech her anew to be our Esther in this time of crisis, and a great reversal will be worked for us.